on this house. So I'm here now, but really quickly, I just wanted to kind of like go over a couple of things. So first of all, I am still working on grading your speeches. It's going to take me a while because I like to watch them really slowly to make sure that everybody is, that I'm getting everybody the best feedback that I can to help you improve. So I am looking at the speeches, watching them slowly, and I'm gonna get to them. Hopefully sometime next week, you'll have the feedback for your speeches. I'll try to get it done by either Sunday or Monday before you even have to do your following speech. So I'll be trying to do that. I'll be working on it today after class and during the weekend. So I'll give you the best possible feedback for your speeches. Second thing that I wanted to talk about is I wanted to remind you to submit your assignments today. This week, we have a lot of work that needs to be submitted. We are on week 5. So we are quickly approaching the end of the semester. We have 3 more weeks left worth of class, and then the session will be done. So we are starting to pick up the pace, move a little bit quicker this time around. So for this week, you had to submit your topic approval for your informative speech. Just kind of like let me know like what you are thinking about talking about for your informative speech. So that's that. You are also taking your midterm. So your midterm, like I went over last week, is 25 questions, true or false, multiple choice questions. And it's based on the study guide that it is conveniently on Canvas for you all to look at and to study before you take the midterm. So if it's not on the study guide, then it won't be on the midterm. So that is what's due today. So you have a couple of discussion posts, you have a couple of quizzes, and you have your midterm that is due this week. So make sure that you submit all of that in by today at 11:59 p.m. We want to make sure that you are actually submitting your work on time so that you can get the full amount of points for that particular assignment. I have actually been pretty easy when it comes to like anybody submitting a couple hours late, but just try to get your assignments in on time so you can get timely feedback. So that's that. So today I really quickly wanted to go over visual aids, and I wanted to kind of discuss the informative speech, what is expected of you, and all of that. So let me quickly pull up what I wanted to talk about today so that we can, discuss what is expected and all of that good stuff. So let me quickly pull up the PowerPoint that I have for that. Here you go. So I wanted to talk about, like I said, I wanted to talk about the informative speech. So basically, just a couple of things that I wanted to discuss when it comes to visual aids. When you are using a visual aid for your presentation for your future speeches, so for the informative and your persuasive speech, you are able to use any type of visual aid that you'd like, as long as it is a model or a prop. And based on the reading that we did and based on the pages that I put online for you all, to kind of like learn the material and get a good understanding. A model is a scale size object of anything that's bigger. So for example, if you were doing a speech, an informative speech about the history of the Statue of Liberty in New York, you would use a smaller replica or like a model of the Statue of Liberty. Obviously, you cannot bring in the entire Statue of Liberty to the presentation. That would be impossible. So you would use a scale size model of your of the Statue of Liberty. So that's what a model is. A prop is any object that can be held in your hand. So for example, if you're going to give us a speech about like the newest iPhone or like the properties of an iPhone, you could like hold up the iPhone and the object in your hand. If you're talking about the benefits of drinking Gatorade after exercise, you can show us a bottle of Gatorade. That will be an example of an object that you can use. So basically any like that. You can also use a whiteboard. So I have a whiteboard over here that I use for my other speech classes that are synchronous. So you can use a whiteboard, you can use a picture, you can use a model, so like a scale size of a bigger object. You can use an object. Any of those are okay to be used. Also, if you have a tablet or an iPad, for example, I do have an iPad. So if I were to pull up like a picture or slides or something, I could still use it on my iPad and show it to you all. That is a way that you can use like any technological things. Now, one of the things that I wanted to go over today is what you are not allowed to use. So you are not allowed to use anything that requires you to do screen sharing. The reason why, it's because it just makes it more complicated, and you will be more focused on like screen sharing with your slides or with a picture rather than actual delivery of your speech. I want to focus on the way that you use your gestures, your eye contact, your face expressions. That's what I want you to focus on when it comes to your speech delivery. Everything else, you know, using a visual aid, using like a PowerPoint or anything like that is something that you will get a lot of practice throughout your college years. So it's not something that I feel that I kind of like have to teach you a lot about, just because I think that a lot of you are familiar with that. And also it just makes it really difficult. And, you know, in like this time where we have to do our speeches and like online type of way, it makes it even more hard to like figure out how to use technology, do screen sharing, and also be able to focus on your anxiety and deliver your speech. So nothing that requires screen sharing. So like slides or anything like that, I would stay away from that. I actually, I'm not allowing you to use any PowerPoint or slides that you have to do screen sharing. Again, if you are able to pull it up on a tablet or a laptop or anything else, then that would be fine. But just like screen sharing, anything like that is something that I'm not allowing. Also, any videos or anything like that. Videos, one, they take too much of your time for your speech. And two, it's complicated and you'll have to do some screen sharing. And a video, if you pull it up on your phone or on your tablet, it's really hard for us to watch. So stay away from videos. If you're using slides, you can pull it up on another device. Just don't do screen sharing with that. So anything like that, I would stay away from. So anything that it's too technological, I want you to focus on the actual quality of your verbal delivery and your nonverbal delivery. So your facial expressions, the way that you use your words and your hand gestures, that's what I want you to focus on for this speech. So hopefully that makes sense. If you have any questions as to what kind of like visual aids are allowed or what you should use, you can totally check in with me. Let me know, hey, professor, I plan on using this. Do you think this would work for a speech? Was this allowed? Shoot me an email or a message on Canvas inbox, and I will be more than happy to talk to you about what kind of visual aid you can use. So now that we talked a little bit about visual aids, I kind of wanted to talk about the informative speech, talk about what informative speaking is, what are the goals of it are, and just talk about like what is required of you for your speech and all that good stuff. Like I said, for those of you who join us late, I am going to be grading your anecdotal speeches over the weekend. I'll try to get them done hopefully sometime tomorrow. If I don't get them done all by today, I'll try to get them done as soon as possible, so you have the feedback, so that next time that you do your other speeches for next week, you are able to get that feedback, take it into account, and then put it into practice for your next speech. So really quickly, let me share the screen with you all when it comes to this informative speaking topic. Quickly share the screen. Okay. So let's talk about informative speaking. So one of the things that I want to highlight when it comes to informative speaking with you all is that informative speaking, you are just basically telling us information. So things that we want to stay away from when it comes to informative speaking is any persuasive language, any way to incite the audience to do something. So for example, stay away from telling the audience to purchase a product or to try a new diet, or that something is better than the other. All of that language is biased language, and it is language that shouldn't be used in an informative speech. It is language that is reserved for a persuasive speech, because our aim in that speech is to persuade, change somebody's minds, or something of the sort. When it comes to informative speaking, we're just giving people information about a topic that we find interesting and that we think that they'll find interesting as well. So first thing that we want to talk about is, what is the goal of the informative speech? Like, what is it that I want my audience to take away from my speech after I'm done? So the goal of informative speaking, I'm sorry, my bad. The goal of informative speech is just to get the audience to know more about a topic. We want them to learn something more about something that you're interested in, to get a deeper understanding. Maybe they know about the topic, but they don't have deep knowledge about it, and you are just expanding their knowledge. So it's just increasing the audience's knowledge. That's your only goal when it comes to your informative speech. So again, any biased language, any language that incites the audience to do something, to purchase something, or to do anything of the sort is something that we want to stay away from in this informative speech. So words as should, must, better, good, bad, any word that adds like a quality or a type of bias or opinion to your topic is something that you want to stay away from in this speech. So again, the difference between is that in an informative speech, you are seeking to enlighten the audience, meaning that when you enlighten someone, like the time of the enlightenment, you are, bringing to light new information, new topics, increasing somebody's knowledge, right? That's what you're trying to do in this speech. In a persuasive speech, you are more focusing on advocating. When we think of an advocate, we think of a lawyer or somebody who's fighting for somebody else's rights. That's an advocate, somebody who is fighting for a particular position or a particular idea. So persuasive speeches focus more on justifying and supporting an idea or a topic as opposed to increasing knowledge. So that's the difference between the two. In informative speaking, you just want us to know more about your topic, and persuasive speaking, you want us to change your opinion, switch to your position, change the way that we think, or change the way that we're doing things. So again, when you're like crafting your informative speech, when you are typing out your outline, when you're rehearsing your speech, just look at how many of these words that if you have any of these words like should, could, must, better, any of those words that add some type of bias to your speech, look at it, look at your outline, check it out, see if you're using those words. And if you are, try to replace them with something that is less biased, right? Because again, our goal is not trying to get the audience to change their opinion about a topic. We just want them to know more about it. So when we are writing an informative speech, when we are crafting our informative speech, there are a couple of things that we want to consider. First thing we want to consider is audience analysis. We want to make sure that we are giving the audience information that they would find helpful or interesting. So, I mean, for example, I had a student a few years back who wanted to give us information about how to build your own perfect custom-made gaming computer, which I thought was a fascinating topic for the class, right? I thought it was really interesting. But there is so much information out there that you can put into this speech, into this topic, right? And this is where audience analysis comes in, getting to know like what your audience is into, what they would find helpful, the range, age of the audience. So for example, for that particular topic, since we had a lot of people who were on the older side in that particular class, one of the things that we focus on is like making the information simple and like easy to understand by just the average person. We also wanted them to like talk about products and systems that they would actually use and that would be affordable. So again, that's what we want to focus on when it comes to audience analysis. Also, you want to make sure that your information is new and interesting. So I also had another student who was talking about the life of Kanye West, right? And a lot of us are familiar with who Kanye West is. We have heard his name mentioned, even if we don't know much about him, we have heard his name being mentioned before. So we want to make sure that the information that you're providing is information that people would find interesting, that they perhaps might not know about, or that it is something that's new, something that not a lot of people know about. So if you're restating information that it's out there for us to, that we have probably heard of, that we have talked to somebody about it, it's just going to be redundant and it will get boring for the audience. So just keep that information interesting, find things that are hardly talked about and focus on that information rather than just giving us the information that we can easily hear in a media outlet. Also, when you are writing your informative speech and when you are rehearsing it, try not to cram too much information when it comes to the topic. I know that there is so much that you want to talk about in a topic that you find appealing and interesting. I mean, we could go hours and hours talking about something that we find really interesting and that we're passionate about, but we have to make sure that within those 4 to 5 minutes that we're delivering that speech, that we're giving quality over quantity. So make sure that you're giving us good information that is helpful, information that is interesting, rather than focusing on just giving us tons of information, focusing on giving us good, well-researched information. So focus on quality, not on quantity. Also remember that we as humans get extremely overwhelmed with large amounts of information, that we tend to tune it out if there's too much information. So just focus on a couple of things that you think we find interesting and just dive deep into it and develop those points. Also, make sure that you organize your speech really well. In this speech, more than in other speeches, it is really, really important to organize your speech really, really well, that you have a clear organizational pattern that we're able to tell when you move from your introduction to your main points and from one main point to another. The reason why I say this, that it is crucial for this particular speech, it's because you are giving us a lot of information, a lot of factual information. You are quoting, you're citing, you're referring to a lot of sources. It can get jumbled up, it can get really messy, and it can become really difficult for us to follow if you don't have a clear organizational pattern, if you don't have a clear introduction, clear transitional sentences. You have to make sure that your outline is solid, is well put together, it has clear transitions, it is well organized, the information flows well, it's coherent. So just look at it when you're rehearsing your speech, rehearse it in front of somebody in your family or a friend that you're close to, and just see if they're able to follow along your speech from beginning to end. If they're able to do so, then you probably have a really good organization pattern in your speech, and you have like really good transitional sentences. So the last thing that I wanted to talk about are what are the types of topics that you can use in the speech. So for our anecdotal speech, which is the one that we worked on last week, for that speech, it is definitely much easier because I actually gave you a very narrow like area of things that you could focus on. For informative speech, you have basically a very open opportunity to choose any topic that you want to talk about. So there are some things that I want to help you with when it comes to narrowing down what kind of topics you can talk about. So the first, let's talk about the types of informative speeches. So there are many types of informative speeches. One of them is about people. Like I said, if you find somebody really inspiring, somebody that you really think is a model or somebody that we should know about more, then this is the opportunity for you to highlight that person that you want us to know more about. So I've had people who have done topics on people like Post Malone. I've had people write about Rosa Parks, historical figures that we might not know much about. I also had people talk about some voodoo queen in like New Orleans, and that was like a really interesting topic as well. So again, people that you think we would find interesting, or people that you think need to be heard more about, that we need to know more information about, that would be your great opportunity to do so. You can also talk about current or historical events. And there are things that you, for example, like if you think that people need to know more about, Pride or Holi or different events or different situations that are going on around the world, this is the opportunity. I had a student last semester who delivered a very, very, very beautiful speech about what was going on with Artsakh and Armenia and all that stuff. So I thought that was really interesting. And I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing that correctly, but the whole she talked about like the conflict that was going on with Armenia, and like and she brought it into context. I thought that was really, really interesting. So that could be like an opportunity for you to talk about something that we should know more about. Also, you could talk about concepts. I had a student who thought it would be really interesting to talk about, Bitcoin, or talk about cryptocurrency. And that is a concept that we have been hearing a lot about lately, but a lot of us might not know much about it. So that's an interesting topic. You can also talk about current issues. We have issues that are like currently affecting not only the world, but the US as well. We have COVID was a big issue, right? We also have a situation that's happening in Palestine. We also have a situation that was happening in India with like the horrible COVID outbreaks, and a lot of people unfortunately passing away. So that's topics that you could talk about. There are other two areas that you can discuss. The next one is our process speeches. Process speeches are also known as how-to speeches, or speeches that teach people how to do something. So for example, baking a cake, changing a tire, how to do a dance move. Those are usually good speeches when it comes to informative speaking, but those are not allowed for this speech assignment. The reason being is because their organization is a little different than for the other ones. And the other speeches, such as people, current events, concepts, issues, and objects, you can focus more on picking a couple main points and then really diving into them. A process speech has a bunch of main points, but all of them are really little and have very little details to it. So that's why process speeches are not allowed. So any how-to speech, any speech that starts with how to bake a cake, how to cook lasagna, how to change a tire, any of those speeches are considered process speeches and are not allowed for this assignment. Another topic that you are allowed to talk about are objects or phenomena. So for example, if you really think that it is really interesting to talk about the Mandela effect, that will be a great topic. For those of you who think that, you know, the bystander effect, when people like, you know, are less likely to do anything if people who are around them don't, that will be a great phenomena to talk about. Objects such as a new car, the newest phone, newest technology, that's also really interesting to talk about as well. That will be something that works for your informative speech. Again, things that are allowed that you are allowed to talk about: people, current historical events, concepts, issues, objects, or phenomena. Process speeches or how-to speeches are not allowed, and they just don't work, and it will make you lose points in this assignment. So that is that when it comes to informative speaking. So again, if you have any questions, when you are putting your speech together, or if you are struggling with, if you're struggling with choosing a topic or just organizing your speech, just let me know. I will be more than happy to help you out with selecting a topic, making sure that your speech, is well put together and all that good stuff. So just reach out to me, send me an email. I'll be more than happy to help you out with that. The last thing that I wanted to talk about today is I quickly wanted to go over the guidelines of our informative speech so that I could just quickly, explain what I'm looking for, what it is that, I want you to focus on. So let me quickly pull up our Canvas page so that I can take you down to where it's at. So if you go to our Canvas page is like right here, right? It says guidelines for informative speech. So that's what you want to click on. And basically it just like tells you the outcomes of the informative speech. So make sure that you are able to, these are the student learning outcomes that you will be meeting when you are putting together the speech. So what is the informative speech? As like I was telling you about, it's, you want to increase awareness or knowledge about a particular topic. And like I was mentioning 2 seconds ago, you could be, your speech could be about an object, people, events, concepts, issues. Any of those are great areas to focus on for your informative speech. However, process speeches are not allowed. So anything that's a procedure, a process, a how-to speech, it's not allowed for this assignment. Otherwise, you will not get full credit for your assignment. So again, this speech is 4 to 5 minutes in length, meaning that your minimum amount of time that you have to meet is 4 minutes. The maximum is 5. This is also something new that you will be doing in this speech, and you will be using outside sources to back up your arguments. Obviously, if you are going to be enlightening us about a topic, giving us new information about a topic, you obviously must do research on the topic. You must be knowledgeable about it to be able to talk to us about this topic. So you are required to use 2 to 3 outside sources, a minimum of 2 outside sources, to support your speech. You're always welcome to use more than 2 to 3 sources if you feel like you need it, but the minimum is 2. So I'm going to be looking for a works cited page that has 2 sources. And I'm not very picky when it comes to the type of sources that you use, as long as they are somewhat credible and somewhat reliable, then you are still fine. Make sure that your sources are current within the last 5 to 10 years or so. Make sure that they're not shady sources like my grandma's basement.com. Make sure that they are, somewhat reputable, like, a magazine or a newspaper or a journal or a well-known blog or something like that. Those are okay for you to use. You are required also to cite 2 different sources when you're delivering your speech. This again is something new to this particular speech. And what I mean by citing 2 different sources is that in a paper, right, when you are writing your paper, you cite your sources. You say, according to A, B, and C, ... right? You would cite a source like that in your paper, and then it will be followed by a citation in parentheses, right? That's what you would do if you were writing a research paper or an essay for a class. Because in a speech, everything is spoken, right? We are not reading from a paper. We're not letting our classmates see our outline. You are required to do the same, but as an oral citation. So again, the same way that you would write it on your paper or your outline, according to stated by so-and-so said this, that's the same way that you would say it out loud. So for example, if I am doing my speech and I come across my first source that I want to cite that I use to back up my arguments, I would say it really loud, like, according to the New York Times, blah, 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 right? And I would write it full out in my outline with the citation and the in-text citation, right? That's how I would write it out. Even if you are not directly quoting, even if you're just paraphrasing or just kind of like summarizing the idea of the source that you're using, you still need to cite, you still need to use that oral citation so it counts for credit for your speech. If I don't hear too clearly different sources, and again, I also had students in the past who cite the same source twice and they think that that counts as two oral citations. That doesn't count as two oral citations. You have to cite two different sources. So for example, if you have two sources, right, in your work cited, I need to hear both of them orally cited. So if you have the New York Times and Los Angeles Times, I need to hear those two different sources being cited orally in your speech. Citing New York Times twice or citing the LA Times twice does not count as two sources, that counts as one. So again, yes, you have to cite two different sources. Props are required, so you have to use some type of visual aid for the speech. Again, whether it be a model, an object, a whiteboard, a picture that you print out, anything that counts as a non-technological visual aid, you have to use for the speech so that it helps us enhance the experience of listening to your speech. But again, none of that technology, video, or any like that requires screen sharing is allowed for this speech. So again, if you have any questions when it comes to your informative speech, again, send me an email. I will be more than happy to answer any questions that you might have when it comes to it. I want you all to do well. I want the speech to be something that helps you become more confident as a speaker. And again, I know that there are a couple of elements that we're introducing in the speech, such as oral citations, using sources to back up our arguments, using a visual aid that is required. All of that is a little bit different when it comes to the speech, and also our time limit is a little bit longer. But again, I have confidence that all of you are going to do great. I've been looking at your anecdotal speeches. Everybody's doing fabulous already to begin with. So I have full confidence that you all will do great. Again, if you have any questions, shoot me an email. I'll be more than happy to help you out. And with that being said, this is the end of our class. I hope that you all have a good weekend, that you enjoy your weekend, and that you start working on your speech. Again, watch out for my grading of your anecdotal speech. I will be doing that like right after this class as soon as it's done. And with that being said, you're free to go. I hope you all have a fabulous weekend.